If you're watching this, don't scroll. What I'm about to tell you is unbelievable. And if this were happening to someone else, I wouldn't have believed it either. But this happened to me. Isabella Carter, right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And before you go any further, do me a quick favor. Please hit the subscribe button, comment your view on the story and where you are watching from. Because trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. I'll never forget the moment it all changed. Exactly 24 hours after burying my husband, my mother-in-law looked me dead in the eye and said, "Isabella, get out. This mansion belongs to my son, not you." She didn't whisper it. She didn't mutter it. She didn't hesitate. She said it with the coldness of someone ordering a coffee. I thought it was grief talking until she handed me a trash bag and pointed toward the front door. And that's when I saw it. A man I had never met before, standing behind her with my husband's safe keys in his hand. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how everything fell apart, you need to know what happened 24 hours before she threw me out. Stay with me. This story only gets darker from here. Who I was before everything fell apart. My name is Isabella Carter, 32 years old, born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but living in Atlanta for the last decade. I wasn't always surrounded by luxury. I didn't grow up wealthy. I worked 2 jobs through college. I built everything I had with my own hands. And when I met David Hamilton, I finally thought God was giving me a break. David wasn't just any man. He was charming, supportive, and the kind of tall, quiet guy who listened more than he spoke. He was a software engineer working for a cybersecurity firm in Buckhead, and he had a smile that made you forget your stress instantly. We met at a charity gala in Midtown Atlanta 3 years ago, and from that night on, we were inseparable. He treated me like a queen. He respected my career. He loved how ambitious I was. His mother, though, Linda Hamilton, the woman who would eventually tear my life apart. The funeral, where the first shock hit me. The funeral was held at Greenwood Cemetery, one of those quiet, hauntingly beautiful places with rows of old oak trees and American flags fluttering near the veterans' graves. David's casket was lowered into the ground, and the moment the first shovel of dirt hit the coffin, Linda collapsed to her knees dramatically. Everyone ran to her. Pastors, cousins, neighbors, everyone except me. Not because I didn't care, but because I had seen Linda pull stunts like this before. Everything with her was always a performance. Her fake tears, her loud wailing, her dramatic fainting spells. She wanted to be the center of every tragedy. But something felt different this time. As she sobbed into the grass, she kept repeating one strange sentence. He wasn't supposed to leave me. Not yet. Not now. Not us. Not the family. Not this world. Me. Like David had betrayed her by dying. That was red flag number 1. But trust me, the red flags were just getting started. The stranger at the funeral. While I stood beside the casket, trying to hold myself together, I noticed a man watching me from across the cemetery. Tall, broad, wearing a dark gray suit with no tie, hands in his pockets. He didn't cry. He didn't pray. He didn't comfort anyone. He just watched. And when I made eye contact with him, he turned away, fast like I had caught him doing something wrong. I assumed he was a distant cousin or someone from David's workplace. But when people lined up to greet me after the burial, nobody seemed to know who he was. Not his co-workers, not his childhood friends, not even Linda, or so she claimed. I should have trusted my instincts, because the next day, that same man would be standing inside the mansion, holding my husband's safe keys. But again, I'll get there. For now, remember this stranger, because he is the reason everything unraveled. The mansion, a place that never felt like home. After the funeral, I drove back to the mansion in Sandy Springs. People online think mansions mean happiness. But let me tell you the truth. That house never felt like mine. David bought it before he met me. A beautiful 3-story estate with marble floors, white columns, and a long driveway lined with trimmed hedges. But from the moment I moved in, Linda made it clear she hated the idea of another woman living in her son's house. She would always say things like, "Isabella, don't rearrange anything. This is David's family home." Or, "You're just borrowing space. Nothing here is yours." Little did I know how literal she meant that. 24 hours later, the day everything snapped, I got barely 2 hours of sleep that night. Grief does that. Your mind screams while the world is quiet. When morning came, I put on a black sweatshirt, tied my hair up, and headed downstairs to make coffee. But when I reached the bottom step, I smelled cigarette smoke. David hated cigarettes. Nobody in the house smoked. The hair on my arm stood up. I walked into the living room and stopped dead in my tracks, because sitting on David's leather chair, legs crossed, blowing smoke out of the window, was Linda, inside David's mansion, at 7 a.m., smoking like she owned the air itself. And next to her, the same mystery man from the funeral. My heartbeat quickened, but before I could speak, Linda smiled, a cold, victorious smile, and said, "Good morning, Isabella. You have exactly 1 hour to pack your things and leave my son's house." I laughed at first. I really did. I thought she was grieving. I thought she was confused. I thought I misheard her. But then the mystery man stood up and dangled David's safe keys in front of me. Click, clink, jingle. The sound stabbed through my chest. "Who are you?" I demanded. He stepped closer, expressing blank. "The person who now controls everything David left behind." And that's when I felt my entire world tilt. Because David had never given another man access to his safe. And Linda, with her arms folded and smirk growing, looked like a villain finally getting her moment. But the worst part? The part one couldn't shake. There was something about that man's face. Like I had seen him before, but not in real life. No, in a picture. A picture David had hidden from me. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the video yet, please do it now. This part is where things get real. Because when that man dangled the safe keys in front of me, I knew something was wrong. Deeply wrong. I stared at the stranger, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Why do you have my husband's keys?" I asked. He didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't show a hint of emotion. Instead, he turned the keys slowly in his hand, letting them jingle. "Because," he said, "David wanted it this way." My stomach tightened. "That's impossible," I snapped. "David never even met you." Linda's sharp laugh cut through the room like a knife. "Oh, Isabella, sweet girl. You thought you knew everything about my son. How adorable." She took another drag of her cigarette, blowing smoke directly at me like it was part of the performance. I clenched my jaw. "I want answers," I said. "Right now." Linda leaned back in the chair David used to sit in every Sunday morning while reading the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. She tapped her long red nails on the armrest. "The only answer you need," she smirked, "is that you have no place here. Not now. Not ever." Her voice was venomous. Practiced. Almost gleeful. And then she delivered her first villain line, the line that told me she wasn't just grieving. She was plotting. A wife who can't protect her husband's legacy doesn't deserve his home. My blood ran cold. I turned to the man next to her. "Then who are you?" I demanded. He finally spoke again. "My name is Aaron Collins," he said, "and I'm here to handle David's unfinished matters." Unfinished matters? David was a planner. He didn't leave things unfinished. Suspicion crawled across my skin. I stepped closer. "How did you know my husband?" Aaron tilted his head. "You shouldn't ask questions you're not prepared to hear the answers to." That was not a normal sentence. Not a cousin. Not a friend. Something darker. I felt my chest tighten. But before I could ask again, Linda snapped her fingers at him like he was a servant. "Aaron, show her." "Show me what?" Aaron reached into a leather folder on the table and pulled out a document. He held it up, not handing it to me, just displaying it. And even from a few steps away, I could recognize David's handwriting. His signature. His initials. But the title of the document. That's what froze me. Updated will, effective immediately. My knees nearly buckled. David had updated his will and never told me? But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the date on the corner. Dated 2 weeks before his death. The same time David suddenly grew distant. The same time he canceled our anniversary dinner. The same time he said he needed space. My breath hitched. David would never hide something like this from me. I whispered. Linda smirked like she had been waiting for that exact line. He had a lot more than you think. Just as I opened my mouth to argue, something else snapped into place in my mind. I had seen Aaron's face before, but not in person, not at the funeral. No, I had seen that man. In a picture inside David's home office. A picture he kept turned face down. A picture he always said was work-related and nothing important. A picture I was never allowed to touch. The realization sent a shiver down my spine. Aaron wasn't just some legal representative. He wasn't a distant friend. He was something else. Something hidden. Something dangerous. I demand the truth. Give me the will, I said. Aaron shook his head. Not your decision. I stepped forward anyway, but Linda lifted her hand between us like a traffic cop. Try it, she said, and I'll have you removed from this mansion faster than you can blink. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice to a whisper just for me. You think you were the only woman in David's life. I felt my heart stop. What? I breathed. She smiled, a cruel, satisfied smile. You were the wife he married, not the woman he trusted. My hands curled into fists. Stop lying, I said. David loved me. Linda rolled her eyes. Oh, sweetheart, love doesn't mean loyalty. The second shock of the day. Without warning, Aaron placed a small black USB flash drive on the table. David instructed me, he said, that if anything happened to him, you were not to receive this until after the estate was settled. Linda looked at him sharply. Aaron, she snapped. Don't. But he ignored her. This contains everything, he said. Everything about what? He looked at me with a strange mix of pity and warning. About whom David really was. My heart pounded so loudly I could barely hear my own breathing. Give it to me, I said. He slid the USB across the table. But before it reached me, Linda smacked it away, sending it flying onto the floor. She doesn't need that, Aaron quietly replied. He wanted her to have it. Linda's face twisted in rage. And then she said the sentence that changed everything. If she finds out the truth, everything we've built will fall apart. Everything we've built. My eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? Linda froze, realizing she had revealed something she shouldn't have. Aaron pinched the bridge of his nose, sighing. This is exactly why he didn't want to involve you, he muttered. Involve me in what? Aaron didn't say another word. He simply walked toward the hallway, the one leading to David's private study. Linda tried to stop him. Aaron, don't you dare. But he ignored her. I followed him, pulse racing, every step echoing through the marble hallway. He paused at the office door, unlocked it, pushed it open, and motioned for me to look inside. Slowly, I stepped in. And what I saw, it didn't make sense. It didn't make any sense. Because inside David's study, every photo of us was gone. Every picture, every frame, every memory, missing, replaced with photos of David, with the same mysterious man, with Aaron, different years, different cities, different events, some smiling, some serious, some looked like they were hiding something. My throat tightened. Why would David keep all this from me? I whispered. Aaron's expression darkened. Because, Isabella, David wasn't the man you thought he was. I felt my heartbeat stutter. What the hell does that mean? Aaron's jaw clenched. Before he could answer, Linda stormed into the doorway. Aaron, stop talking. She doesn't need to know. Then she turned to me, eyes blazing. Get out of my son's house. But I wasn't leaving. Not until I knew the truth. Not until I knew why my husband hid an entire life from me. Not until I figured out who the hell Aaron really was. If you're still watching, don't scroll. This is the moment everything you think you know about this story flips. Because when I followed Aaron into David's private study, I wasn't expecting to find my entire marriage rewritten. But that I saw was only the beginning. David's study was always neat, minimal, organized to the point of obsession. But now, it looked like a museum dedicated to a life I had never seen. Photos of David and Aaron spanning years. Trips to Seattle, nights out in Chicago, a tech conference in Miami, an award ceremony in New York, none of which David ever mentioned. Not once. I stumbled toward the nearest framed photo. David and Aaron standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling like brothers. Or partners? My voice cracked. Why didn't he tell me about this? I whispered. Aaron didn't answer. His eyes were on Linda, and hers were burning with panic. Isabella, don't touch anything. I ignored her and lifted another photo. In this one, David and Aaron were in front of a small airplane, both wearing pilot headsets. David never flew planes. He hated heights. I turned to Aaron. Why were you with my husband on a plane? I demanded. He hesitated, just long enough to confirm I wasn't imagining things. Then he exhaled and said, because we weren't just co-workers. David and I, we were brothers. My heart dropped to the floor. Brothers? I whispered. Linda slammed her hand on the desk. That's enough, Aaron. She doesn't need to know that part. I blinked hard, trying to process. Brothers? Impossible. David never mentioned having siblings. Aaron watched me carefully, like he was measuring how much truth I could handle. We shared a father, different mothers. He didn't talk about me much because we didn't grow up together. I staggered back. David never said anything about a half-brother. Aaron nodded slowly. I know. Linda marched toward me, snatching a photo out of my hand. Your husband didn't know you every detail of his bloodline. Her voice was sharp, sharp enough to slice skin. But why hide Aaron? I asked. Why hide your own son? Linda froze. Her pupils shrank. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. And that tiny flicker of fear told me everything. She lied. Whatever story she planned to feed me, she wasn't ready. But Aaron? He was done hiding. David kept me secret because Linda demanded it, he said quietly. She didn't want the world to know she wasn't his only mother figure. I gasped. You're not Linda's son? He shook his head. No, our father had an affair. My mother raised me alone. David only found out about me when we were in our 20s. The ground beneath me felt like it tilted. And you two became close? I asked. Aaron nodded. Very. Linda spun around him. Stop talking. You're going to ruin everything we've built. The same words she said earlier. Everything we've built. What exactly did we mean? And why was she so afraid of the truth? I stepped towards Aaron. What unfinished business did David have with you? I asked. His jaw tightened. That's not my story, too. Linda slapped the desk so hard a picture frame toppled over. Aaron, if you say another word. But Aaron was done taking orders. He raised his voice slightly, not shouting, just enough for authority. She deserves to know. Linda glared at him with pure hatred. You traitor. Then she turned her glare on me. You have no idea who you married. I didn't back down. Then tell me. She scoffed. Fine. You want the truth. She marched to the closet, the one David kept locked, and yanked it open. Inside, there was a small safe. Aaron looked confused. That's not the right safe, he muttered. Meaning, there was another one. Hidden. Linda grabbed a stack of old files from a shelf, dusty, yellow, and tied with a brittle rubber band. She threw them onto the desk. I stepped closer and saw the label. Hamilton Investments, confidential. My eyebrows knitted tightly. What is this? Linda's smile sharpened. Evidence. Evidence of what? She leaned in, her perfume hitting me like poison. Of what your husband was really doing with Aaron. I opened the top file. Inside were financial statements, wire transfers, hidden accounts, encrypted emails. At first it looked like business paperwork, but then I noticed something that made my heart jump. Some accounts were in David's name. Some were in Aaron's. But the transfers went to the same destination. An offshore account in the Cayman Islands. My chest tightened. What is this? I whispered. Linda crossed her arms triumphantly. Your husband and his half-brother were laundering money. I froze. Laundering? No, David would never. Aaron slammed his hand on the table. That's not true, he barked. Linda smirked. Isabella, look at the documents. Everything is there. I looked. Dates, amounts, signatures. And then I saw it. David's signature didn't match. Not even close. It was a forgery. A bad one. My breath caught in my throat. Linda, I whispered. You forged his name. She blinked. Just once. But it was enough. Aaron stared at her, stunned. You did this. Linda didn't deny it. She simply straightened her posture and said, I did what I had to do to protect this family. My blood ran cold. Protect the family. From what? From who? Before I could ask, Aaron opened another file. He froze, his face drained of color. Then he whispered, "Mom, what did you do?" He wasn't calling Linda Mom. He was reading something. Something devastating. I stepped beside him, and my stomach dropped, because inside the second file was something far worse. Not forged signatures. Not fake accounts. Not lies. Medical records. David's medical records. And they were dated weeks before his death. The diagnosis highlighted in red. Possible poisoning. Unexplained liver toxicity. I covered my mouth. No, 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 no. Aaron whispered. David didn't die of natural causes. Linda's face hardened, cold, and unblinking. He died because he was weak. My knees nearly gave out. Weak? David? The man who never even took sick days. The man who cooked dinner for me when I couldn't lift my arms from overwork. The man who loved me so deeply it scared me sometimes. What did she mean by weak? Weak enough for what? Weak enough to. I turned to Linda. You killed him, didn't you? Her eyes gleamed. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with triumph. He made choices, she said calmly. And choices have consequences. My heart shattered into a million pieces. She didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. David was dead, and the woman who called herself his mother was standing in his study, proud of it. If you're still watching, don't blink. Because from here on, everything gets darker, more twisted, more unbelievable. And trust me, if this story reaches you, someone out there needs to hear it. Linda finally shows her true face. The room felt colder, the walls thinner, like the mansion itself was listening. I backed away from Linda, my heart pounding so loud it felt like thunder in my chest. You killed my husband, I whispered. You poisoned him. She didn't deny it, not even a flicker of guilt. Instead, she tilted her head and gave me the kind of smile villains were in old Hollywood movies. David was slipping away from me long before he died. He stopped listening. He started thinking for himself. My hand shook. Thinking for himself? I echoed. You mean living his own life? Her eyes narrowed. I gave that boy everything. I raised him. I shaped him. I made him who he was. Then she pointed at me, jabbing her finger like she was stabbing the air. Until you came along. Aaron stared at her, jaw clenched, voice trembling with rage. Linda, tell her the truth. All of it. She turned to him slowly. Her lip curled. Watch your tone, boy. You're only here because your father made one mistake in a cheap hotel room. Aaron flinched. Not physically, emotionally. That sentence was designed to hurt. And Linda enjoyed every second of it. Aaron stands up to her, for the first time ever. He picked up the medical file with shaking hands. You knew he was being poisoned, he said. Why didn't you take him to the hospital? She shrugged lightly. Because he wouldn't listen. Then she added, as casually as if she were commenting on the weather, and because death was easier than dealing with a mess he created. I staggered back, hitting the wall behind me. What mess? I demanded. What are you talking about? Linda rolled her eyes like I was slow. This entire situation, the financial disaster, the offshore money, the secrets, the lies. I shook my head. Those documents were forged. You know that. Aaron knows that. David wasn't laundering anything. Linda's face snapped toward Aaron. Did you tell her that? Aaron didn't answer. He didn't need to, but his silence said everything. I needed something real. Something that wasn't forged, altered, or touched by Linda's poison. So I walked past Linda and straight to David's desk drawer. She tried to block me, tried to lie, tried to distract me, but I knew what I was looking for. David always kept a second phone hidden. He said it was for work emergencies, late-night calls, urgent projects, but on the night he died, I couldn't find it. Now I understood why. I opened the drawer. Empty. I tried the second drawer. Empty. But the third drawer? It had a false bottom. I lifted it, and there it was. David's work phone. Untouched. Uncracked. Still charged. Aaron took a small step forward, eyes wide. How did you know? He whispered. Because David trusted me, I replied. Linda lunged toward the desk. "Don't touch that damn phone." But Aaron stepped in front of her, blocking her like a bodyguard, instead of a forgotten son. "Linda, stop," he said firmly. "You've done enough." Her face twisted with betrayal. "You ungrateful child. After everything I did for you." Aaron's voice cracked. "You didn't do anything for me." I unlocked the phone, and everything changes. My hand shook as I entered the passcode. 1229. Our wedding date. For a split second, I believed he still loved me, still saw me, still trusted me. The phone opened, and the first thing I saw was a thread of messages labeled AC Urgent, Aaron Collins. But they weren't fights. They weren't arguments. They weren't business disagreements. They were warnings from Aaron. "David, she's watching you again. You need to tell Isabella before it's too late. Your mother found the test results. Hide them." And David replied, "She won't hurt Isabella, right?" Aaron responded again, "I can't promise that anymore." My blood turned to ice. I scrolled further. More messages from David. "I think the food made me sick again. She won't let me leave the house. Isabella can't know until I figure out how deep this goes. If anything happens to me, protect her." My vision blurred. My breath hitched. My knees pressed into the chair. David wasn't hiding a double life. He was hiding danger. Danger he was trying to keep away from me. Linda took one step towards me. "Get out of my son's phone." I raised my head slowly. "You hurt him," I whispered. "You poisoned him. You manipulated him. You trapped him." Linda sneered. "He was never strong enough to lead this family. I did what I had to do." And then she said the line that made every hair on my body rise. "Don't worry, Isabella. You'll join him soon." Aaron froze. "Linda, what the hell did you just say?" She didn't repeat it. She didn't need to. Her eyes said everything. She didn't want me out of the mansion. She wanted me buried. Aaron pulled me aside, voice low and urgent. "You need to leave. Now." But before I could respond, something caught my eye. A small blue envelope, half hidden beneath the desk. My name on it, handwritten, in David's handwriting. I felt dizzy. I picked it up with trembling hands. Inside was one sentence. "If you're reading this, don't trust anyone. Not even Aaron." My heart stopped. My throat closed. My fingers went numb. I looked at Aaron. He looked back at me. Concerned. Confused. Afraid. But suddenly, I didn't know who he really was, or what he really wanted, or whether he was saving me, or leading me straight into a trap. I don't know how long I stayed frozen in that narrow upstairs hallway of the mansion. The air felt heavier than usual, like the house itself was holding its breath. Somewhere downstairs, I could hear Linda's faint humming, calm, casual, like nothing in the world was wrong. But everything was wrong, because the last thing I found in David's office before she nearly caught me was a clue he left behind for me. A tiny brass key, cold, heavy, covered in dust. A key that didn't belong to any door I knew in the mansion. I tucked it deep in my pocket and whispered to myself, "Everyone watching, don't blink. This is where everything changes." I'm in it. This moment felt final. The secret letter. I slipped into the small guest room, the one Linda refused to let anyone use. I closed the door, leaned against it, and pulled out the envelope I'd found taped under David's drawer. My name was written in his handwriting. Isabella. My hand shook as I opened it. Inside was a single page. His writing was rushed, uneven, almost like he wrote it while scared or sick. "If you're reading this, Bella, it means my time ran out. There are things I never told you. Things I couldn't. There's a room hidden behind the old oak bookshelf in the library. Don't trust anyone in this house except Aaron. And if my mother finds this before you do, run." My chest tightened. My breath stopped. David knew something. David hid something. And he was afraid of Linda. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the letter to my chest. David was trying to save me, even after death. The hidden room. The library was the darkest part of the mansion, and tonight it felt even darker. The shelves towered over me, and for a moment, I felt like the books were watching. I walked straight to the giant oak bookshelf. I pressed my hand against it, nothing. Then I remembered something David used to say, jokingly, whenever he read mystery novels. Old houses always hide things behind classics. My eyes scanned the shelves. My fingers hovered over the old, dusty hardcovers. Then I saw it, a copy of Moby Dick sticking out just a half-inch farther than the others. I pulled it. A click sounded behind the wood. Then slowly, the bookshelf slid open. Behind it was a narrow hallway, cold, pitch black, and at the very end of it, a door. The key in my pocket suddenly felt warm. Before I could step into the hidden passage, a voice sliced through the silence. Looking for something, Isabella? I turned. Linda stood in the doorway of a library, her arms crossed, her eyes gleaming. She smiled slowly, cruelly. You really are just like your mother, always desperate to take something that isn't yours. My heart dropped. My mother? What are you talking about? Linda stepped closer, her heels echoing on the hardwood. Your little fairy tale marriage was never real. David was never supposed to be with you. You were temporary, a distraction, someone beneath us. She leaned in, her voice lowering to a chilling whisper. And when I realized David actually loved you, I knew you would ruin everything. My blood ran cold. Loved. David loved me, and his mother hated him for it. Linda tilted her head as if admiring a painting. I told him you were unstable. I told him you wanted the family money. I told him once he was gone, I would handle you. Handle me. She meant remove me. Erase me. Pretend I never existed. She smiled again, softer, almost sweet. But now look at you, running around my house like a lost little girl, while I decide what to do with you. My legs felt weak. She wasn't hiding her villain anymore. She wanted me to know. Then footsteps. Fast. Panicked. Aaron appeared behind her. Mom, stop. His voice cracked with fear. Just stop. Linda didn't turn. She didn't even flinch. Aaron, go back to your room. No. His voice rose. Isabella deserves to know the truth. My heart pounded. The truth? Aaron stepped beside her, his hands shaking. Isabella, David didn't die the way we said he did. Linda's jaw tightened. Aaron. Her voice was a threat, but he continued. He was sick, yes, but something happened that night. Something you need to know. I swallowed hard. What happened? Aaron looked at me with eyes full of guilt. Mom wasn't supposed to be there. She went into his room. They argued. He collapsed. And instead of helping him, Linda cut him off, her voice sharp as glass. He was already dying. I just chose not to speed up the inevitable. I covered my mouth. Tears filled my eyes. Linda didn't deny it. She didn't even care. Aaron grabbed my arm suddenly. Isabella, you have to get out of here. Right now. Linda stepped toward us, calm and controlled. You're not going anywhere. This house is mine. David is gone. And you were never family. Aaron pulled me hard. Run. We sprinted down the library hallway. My feet flew over the floor. My breath tore through my chest. The front door, so close. But Linda's voice echoed behind us. You can run, Isabella, but you'll never outrun the truth. I didn't dare look back. When we reached the foyer, Aaron shoved something into my hand. A photograph. Old, worn, torn on the edges. It was David, but standing next to a woman I didn't recognize. A woman who looked exactly like me. So much that it made my skin crawl. Aaron whispered, Isabella, that woman, she wasn't a stranger. I stared at him, breathless. He whispered the words that would change everything. She was your mother. Aaron's words hit me like a physical blow. My mother. The woman in the photograph, the woman standing next to David, was my mother? No, it couldn't be true. It didn't make sense. But the picture in my shaking hands said otherwise. I stepped backward, almost tripping over the marble floor of the mansion's foyer. Aaron, what are you saying? My voice trembled. Linda approached slowly, her heels echoing like a countdown. She didn't bother pretending anymore. She smiled. The kind of smile that tells you everything you knew about your life was a lie. Linda circled me like a shark. You really don't know, do you? She whispered. Aaron grabbed my arm protectively, but she waved him off. Go on, Aaron, she said. Tell her. Let her choke on the truth. Aaron swallowed hard. Isabella, years ago, before David met you, he knew your mother. Linda laughed, cold and poisonous. Knew her? He was in love with her. I froze. My breath turned to ice. What? Aaron continued. They dated when they were young adults. Back in Atlanta. They were serious until she disappeared. She left suddenly. No explanation. Linda folded her arms. And then she popped back into the picture 20-something years later. Pregnant. Alone. Broke. She begged David for help. I shook my head. No, that's not true. My mom never mentioned. Of course she didn't, Linda hissed. She didn't want you to know the truth. I stared at the photograph. My mother, with David smiling. My stomach twisted. Linda stepped closer, lowering her voice. You were supposed to be his child. I nearly dropped the picture. No, I whispered. No, that can't be. Not biologically. Aaron cut in quickly, holding my shoulders before I collapsed. But David believed you might be. He believed your mother purposely hid it to manipulate him. Linda rolled her eyes. He always was gullible. My vision blurred. I felt like the floor was dissolving under my feet. A connection I never knew existed. A bond my mother hid. A history intertwined before I was even born. This wasn't just a marriage. This was a past coming back from the dead. Linda looked me dead in the eyes. Do you understand now? She whispered. That's why I never wanted you here. That's why I threw you out. That's why I wanted you gone the second David died. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. You were the last piece of a story he refused to let go of. A reminder of your mother's betrayal. A reminder of everything he lost. Her face twisted. And I was never going to let the daughter of that woman inherit my son's home. I staggered backward. So that was it. Her hatred wasn't random. It wasn't about money. It was personal, generational. Poison passed from one mother to another. Aaron grabbed my arm and whispered, Isabella, look at the back of the photo. My fingers trembled as I turned them over. There was writing, David's handwriting. Faded, but readable. If anything happens to me, don't let my mother near Isabella. Only she must know the truth. A chill swept over me. I had always wondered why David looked at me with such intense affection sometimes. Why he protected me fiercely. Why he seemed to understand me before I even spoke. Had he always known about my mother? Had he always wondered who I really was? And now, after death, he was still trying to protect me. Linda's face twisted with rage. You weren't supposed to find that room. You weren't supposed to find that letter. You weren't supposed to find that photograph, Isabella. Her voice rose like thunder. You were supposed to disappear quietly. She lunged toward me. Aaron stepped in front of me. Mom, stop. She shoved him so hard he hit the wall. Aaron, I screamed. He groaned but stayed conscious. Linda stormed toward me, her eyes wild, her hands trembling. You ruined everything. Your mother ruined everything. And now you're going to finish what she started? No, I said, my voice shaking but strong. I'm going to finish what David started. That broke her. She screamed so loudly the entire mansion shook. Aaron grabbed my wrist. Come on now. We sprinted toward the back entrance of the mansion, the kitchen door that led to the garden. But before we reached it, something dropped from the photograph. A smaller paper, folded, hidden behind the picture. I stopped dead in my tracks. Aaron looked back. What is it? Come on. I knelt and picked it up. On it was a single sentence, handwritten also by David. A sentence that made my blood run cold. The person who hurt me isn't who you think. I stared at it, breathless. What does that mean? I whispered. Aaron froze. Linda's footsteps pounded toward us. And then, the lights in the mansion flickered, then went out, pitch black. Linda's voice echoed through the darkness. You want the truth, Isabella? Then come find me. Her footsteps faded deeper into the house. Aaron squeezed my hand. Isabella, I think David knew something even I didn't. I stared at the note again. The person who hurt me isn't who you think. Not Linda. Not Aaron. Not the doctors. Not the illness. Someone else. Someone is still out there. Someone David tried desperately to warn me about. Someone connected to my mother. And to me. And suddenly, for the first time, I realized the biggest twist wasn't that Linda threw me out. The biggest twist was that David left me a mystery. That was only beginning.